cold sanctuary. The church stood like a wound against the snow, an ancient skeleton of stone and sorrow. Its spire leaned toward a sky bruised with twilight, and frost crawled across its stained-glass windows like veins of dying light. When the wind howled through the bell tower, the sound that emerged was not quite a prayer, not quite a scream, just the voice of something that remembered too much. To the people of St. Ardent, it was a ruin, a relic of faith long gone. But to Father Aurelius, it was both refuge and punishment, the last sanctuary for a creature who had forgotten how to die. Inside, candles burned low, their flames trembling in the draught like fading souls. Rows of pews sat empty, coated in dust and cold. On the altar, a single silver chalice glimmered beneath the flicker of light, untouched. Father Aurelius knelt before it, rosary of blackened bone wrapped tight around his wrist, and whispered, "Deliver me from thirst, for it knows me better than you ever did." He prayed every night, though he no longer believed anyone listened. They came after midnight, through the back door, shadows cloaked in human shape, his congregation, the reformed, vampires who had starved themselves into frailty, seeking something beyond the taste of blood. Some trembled, others wept, all of them haunted. Aurelius greeted each with the calm of an ancient sorrow. "The blood is not your salvation," he intoned. "It is your cross to bear." A hush fell over the room. The candlelight trembled, revealing faces sunken and pale, monsters pretending to be saints, and their priest, the oldest sinner among them. When dawn approached, they vanished back into the world, unseen and unredeemed. Aurelius remained alone again. The silence pressed heavy against the walls, whispering temptations through the cracks. He stared at the crucifix. The face of Christ was cracked, one eye missing, the wood darkened by age and blood. "You understand," Aurelius murmured. "We both died to save those who would not be saved." Then the killings began. A shepherd's daughter found drained and pale beneath the chapel hill. A merchant, his body hanging from a birch with strange sigils carved into his chest, banished after lighting a candle for her husband, her scream echoing through the snow. By the third night, St. Ardent was consumed by fear. "It's the priest," they whispered. "He's one of them. He's called the darkness back." Aurelius heard the murmurs in the marketplace when he went to buy bread he would never eat. He said nothing. Guilt was his second skin, suspicion merely its shadow. When he returned to the sanctuary, Lucian, a fledgling he had once saved from the brink, stood waiting by the altar, trembling. "There's talk in the streets," Lucian said. "They say one of us has broken the vow." Aurelius regarded him quietly. "Did they name him?" Lucian's voice faltered. "They named you." The priest smiled faintly, the candlelight glinting off eyes older than faith. "Then it's time we find the one wearing my sins." The forest beyond the parish was a cathedral of black pines and unbroken snow. Aurelius walked beneath it as the moon rose, a silent pilgrim. The air reeked of iron and incense, of devotion twisted into blood. He found it near the frozen creek, a crude altar made of bones, corpses arranged in prayer. The blood had frozen into rubies that caught the moonlight. Kneeling at the center was a figure in robes the color of ash. "Drink," the man whispered, "for the night remembers." Aurelius stepped forward. "No," he said softly. "The night forgets nothing." The figure turned. Beneath the hood was a face Aurelius had not seen in centuries. Father Marius, his mentor, his maker, the one who had cursed him with eternal life. "You look well, my son," Marius sneered. "For a man who renounced his nature." "I renounced murder," Aurelius replied. "You renounced truth." Marius rose, his eyes burning crimson. "You preach restraint to beasts that were born of hunger. Do you not see? This blood, this gift, is God's only proof that we were meant to endure. You mistake damnation for grace," Aurelius said. Marius smiled, showing perfect, ancient fangs. "And you mistake your guilt for faith." The fight was silent but terrible. Claw against bone, speed against strength. 2 centuries of buried fury erupting beneath a winter moon. The snow turned black with shadow, then red with blood. When it was over, Marius knelt, broken in the snow, the last of his breath curling in the cold air. Aurelius stood over him, trembling with the weight of victory that felt like defeat. The scent of blood was unbearable, rich, sweet, intoxicating. Aurelius felt the hunger rise, ancient and holy, clawing its way through every vein. His throat burned, his fangs ached. "Forgive me," he whispered to the night, to God, to no one. "For I have not yet forgotten what I am." He knelt, and for the first time in a century, he drank. When Lucian found him at dawn, Aurelius was kneeling at the altar again, his hands shaking, his lips stained dark. The church bell rang once, though no hand had touched the rope. "It's done," Aurelius said quietly. Lucian saw the guilt in his eyes, and the faint glow of returning life in his cheeks. "You fed," Aurelius nodded, "to save them. I became what I fled." Lucian's jaw tightened. "Then we start again. Redemption isn't a single prayer, Father. It's a war." The old priest looked up at the cracked crucifix. "And what if the war never ends?" Lucian smiled faintly. "Then we fight until the light remembers us." Outside, the snow fell in slow spirals, baptizing the earth in silence. The morning sun struggled to rise behind the clouds, painting the frost in a soft, bloody hue. Inside the church, the candles burned low, whispering against the cold. Aurelius stood at the altar, the chalice before him now filled, not with wine, but with blood. He raised it to the cracked figure of Christ and murmured, "For every sin unforgotten, for every soul undeserved." The bell tolled once more. The echoes carried across St. Ardent, through graveyard and forest and frozen street, a requiem for monsters who prayed for grace. And in that sound, the weary could almost believe that even damnation could be sanctified.